Hi guys, Chris here with Super Savvy Travelers. Hey, I wanted to give you a tip because before we were property consultants and everything else, we were travel agents. And we did that and had fun with that for a while, but then of course pivoted into our current line. However, I have a very, very good tip on how you can really deepen and enrich your travel experience when you travel to Italy, specifically when you travel to Venice, Florence, or Rome. Now, one of the ways to really enrich your experience, as you know, is to take a tour and really find out the history of all the things that you're seeing. But the tours necessarily, because they're only a couple hours long, just sort of touch on the main points of what you're looking at. What we recommend is taking a course with the great courses, because we have found some courses there that have really given us a very deep perspective and very interesting look at history and everything that was happening back when these buildings were important or back when a certain artist was working. When you do this, you already approach your travel with a lot of knowledge and a lot of history, and honestly, you can't wait to get there to see these places in person. And the first one we recommend, which is a really good overview of Florence, Venice, and Rome, is the course called Guide to Essential Italy, and that's with Dr. Kenneth Bartlett. He is an amazing instructor, and what he does is he walks you through these three cities. He goes through in detail, telling you the history, telling you the important people of the cities, telling you what was happening at the time that these buildings were important, and he goes really street by street and tells you all the different buildings that are important, that you should know about, even if you may not get to see them all because there's so many, but you know what was happening during the time those buildings were built. It goes into all kinds of detail, and when you walk through a city, especially Florence, because it's a little bit easier for me to see. Venice is pretty big, Rome of course is huge, but Florence you can see the historic center pretty readily. And you walk through and you go, oh, there's that building there. Oh, there's that particular design of decoration on the outside of the building. There's that particular design of building. Oh, there's Dante's house, and there's a museum in there. Maybe we need to check that out. So all of these things are included in the Guide to Essential Italy, and we highly recommend it if you're going to any of those three cities. Now, if you are, like me, a huge fan of the Renaissance and Michelangelo and the artists of that period and the history of that period, and if you're heading to Florence, you really need to get The Genius of Michelangelo, and that is with Dr. William E. Wallace. He is an absolute expert on the Renaissance and on Michelangelo. In fact, when they were restoring the Sistine Chapel back, I think in the 70s, because I was there and it was closed, my first time to Rome, they closed the Sistine Chapel. And he actually got to go up in the scaffolding and take a look, and there's pictures of it. It's just amazing what this man can tell you. And it gives you a really deep look, not only into the mind and life of a genius, a master artist, but also politically, what was going on then. It was a very tumultuous time. And somehow this brilliant artist, despite all the attention that was on him, and despite his alignment with various very famous political figures, somehow was able to make his way through this time pretty much unscathed physically. Now, of course, I'm sure it was very arduous for him mentally and spiritually, but the man is just an amazing inspiration. And when you look at his sculptures, you never look at them the same way. Especially the most touching are the slave sculptures that he has in the Accademia, where they're unfinished. They're called non finito. And people have quoted him as saying that he looks at the stone and sees the figure trapped therein, and you can see him in the stages of trying to free these amazing figures that he then shares with the world. This is one of my favorite courses. Pete and I have watched it so many times because each time you go through it, there's more. So if you're going to Florence and you're going to go visit the art galleries there, you really need to do this course as well. Now, these courses, when I say study or course, they're really fun and entertaining and fascinating, and you're going to love them. Now, I wouldn't be complete in my recommendation of the great courses if I ignored Dr. Robert Greenberg. Dr. Robert Greenberg is a genius. I've gone through many of his courses because I'm a musician. His initial course on the fundamentals of music is a master course in music theory, and in fact clarified some things that I had been struggling with my whole life as a musician. He also has a large series of lectures that you can watch, his 30 greatest orchestral works. And if you're kind of a beginner on the deep dive into classical music, this is something you really want, not to mention It's just a beautiful thing to listen to. I used to listen to it in my car during my commute because it just was so beautiful. And each of these works, he talks about it. He talks about the composer. He talks about what was happening at the time. And again, you get a deep, rich context into some of these amazing classical pieces. It will give you a new appreciation. One of my favorite lecture series that he has done was the Beethoven symphonies. He actually takes a very deep dive. It's a little technical, but also you just see these symphonies go from notes on a page and maybe sound or whatever, beautiful music, into 3D, real life. Like what is he talking about when he talks about program music? You know, and when he does these symphonies that portray a forest or something, you can actually see the forest in your mind's eye through the music, but you wouldn't know to look for it if you didn't do this course. So in any case, I could go on and on because Pete and I are massive advocates of the great course. Any money that we make off it is obviously going to go back into more courses so that we can share the information with you and advise you on the ones that we really, really love. Now, I cannot tell you all the ones we really, really love because there's so many. There's a whole series on the Iliad and the Odyssey, which we watched several times. There's all kinds of historical information. Really go check out the great courses. You guys are not going to be sorry. And for travel, honestly, it will totally turn your travel experience into a full 3D historical perspective. And you're going to make some great memories and really, really understand the context of what you're looking at. So I hope this helps, guys. It has helped us tremendously. And of course, when we find a good thing, we want to put you onto it. So see you soon, guys.